They fined me $50,000 for saving my neighborhood from floods. $50,000, like I'd committed some crime instead of building a dam that kept everyone dry for 3 straight years. And when the judge ordered me to tear it down, the HOA president Amy Scott leaned back with that smug attorney smile of hers waiting for my basement to drown. Well, she got her flood all right, just not the way she expected. I've lived at the bottom of our cul-de-sac for almost a decade where water naturally dumps itself after every storm. My neighbor Robert and I used to joke that we should just keep rowboats in our garages, but the truth wasn't funny. Every spring, my basement turned into a swamp. We'd drag out the shop vac fight mold with dehumidifiers curse through the night while the folks up the hill slept peacefully. They didn't understand what it was like to live where gravity had it in for you. Their lawns drained uphill, ours drowned. And when they told me, maybe you should just improve your drainage, I wanted to laugh. What were we supposed to do? Convince water to flow the wrong direction. I spent 40 years as an electrician, so I know systems. Water electricity, same principle. It flows where resistance is lowest. 3 years back, I studied that creek behind my house and saw a bottleneck. The solution was simple: build a retention structure. Nothing fancy, just concrete and some common sense. Robert helped me pour the base, and together we shaped a small dam that caught stormwater, slowed it down, and released it gently. For the first time in years, we had dry basements. It was glorious. For 3 years, storms came and went, and life was normal again. Then came Amy Scott, HOA president, real estate lawyer with 25 years of courtroom swagger, a woman who wore power like a tailored suit. One Tuesday morning, I pulled a certified letter out of my mailbox, a $50,000 fine for constructing an unauthorized water management structure. I stared at the paper, read it 3 times. Couldn't believe it. 50 grand for solving a problem no one else ever lifted a finger to fix. 3 days later, she cornered me at a neighborhood gathering, smirking. "You'll learn not to mess with HOA authority," she said. That was the moment I knew this wasn't about safety, it was about control. But then came the twist. A plain manila envelope arrived, no return address. Just a note: Harold wanted you to have this. Harold Whitman had been our old HOA president years before Amy. Inside was a drainage map from 1995 covered in Harold's scribbles highlighting weak spots in the middle section of the neighborhood, the area where Amy and her loyal supporters lived. Why would Harold decades ago mark flood risks there if the water always flowed down to me? It didn't add up. Still, Amy wasn't done. She brought in Linda Wilson, a licensed civil engineer, to assess my dam. At first, Linda impressed me, hard hat clipboard, asking sharp questions, calculating flow rates. She told me my dam reduced storm surges by 60%. That meant basements stayed dry because of me. But when her official report came out, something was missing. She left out the part about the old drainage pipe, a crumbling tunnel from the 60s that couldn't handle our neighborhood's growth. She'd seen it, measured it, photographed it, but never put it in writing. That's when my stomach sank. Was she incompetent, or was she hiding something? Then Robert pointed it out. Linda kept returning over and over to measure things that never showed up in her report. She even installed weather monitoring gear, mumbling something about future legal proceedings. Legal proceedings. It clicked. She wasn't just evaluating my dam, she was building a case against me. And Amy knew exactly what she was doing. At the next HOA meeting, she unveiled a glossy 40-page study not from Linda, but from an engineering firm tied to her law practice. It painted my dam as a ticking time bomb. She called me reckless. Dangerous. Sitting there listening to her spin my 3 weekends of sweat and concrete into a liability nightmare, I felt like I was losing my mind. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had overstepped. Who was I to think I could fix what professionals ignored? For the first time I felt doubt, like maybe I should have just kept pumping water out of my basement and left it at that. That night I almost gave up. I sat at my kitchen table staring at Harold's faded map, wondering if I'd made everything worse. But then David Harold's nephew called. Someone had broken into his home office. The thief didn't touch cash electronics or cameras, they took only Harold's drainage documents. That wasn't random. That was surgical. Amy and Linda weren't just bullying me, they were covering tracks. At that moment, the fog lifted. I wasn't the fool here. They were playing a dangerous game and I wasn't about to roll over. Still, the court order came forcing me to dismantle the dam. If I resisted, I risked contempt charges. So, I hired a contractor, documented every step, and complied. But I also knew something else. The Weather Service had just issued a historic storm warning, the worst rainfall since the 1940s, timed perfectly, almost too perfectly, with the dam's demolition. Amy had maneuvered the system so our protection would be gone just as the skies opened. Coincidence? No chance. I moved essential gear to my brother's house on the ridge, a vantage point overlooking both my low-lying lot and Amy's precious middle section. I set up cameras, measuring sticks, even binoculars. If nature was about to prove Harold right, I'd have the evidence. Friday evening, the contractors finished tearing down 3 years of flood prevention. By Saturday morning, black storm clouds swallowed the horizon, and when the rain came, it came like a wall. Within an hour, water was pooling where my dam once held it back. Robert's pumps kicked on non-stop. My backyard filled like a bowl. But then, the water started draining. Gravity carried it toward the bottleneck Harold had warned about. I turned my binoculars to Amy's street. What I saw was inevitable and horrifying. Water rising where it never had before. Lawns disappearing. Cars half submerged. By the second hour, the middle section looked like a shallow lake, 36 inches deep and climbing, while my section had already started draining. Amy's perfect yard furniture floated like cheap pool toys. And Linda's basement. It was gone. Engineering equipment reports, thousands of dollars of gear, all swallowed by the flood. The irony was brutal. They tore down the only thing protecting them, and now their own houses were drowning. Emergency calls lit up. Fire trucks swarmed the middle section while my house sat soggy but manageable, and the cameras I'd planted captured it all in time-lapse bottom houses flooding, then draining middle houses flooding and staying flooded. Sunday morning revealed devastation. The HOA clubhouse itself was under 4 feet of water, meeting notes, financial records, plans for community improvement, all turned to pulp. And that's when the final nail hit the coffin. Harold's secret audio recording surfaced. He had hidden a recorder during private HOA meetings. The tape captured Amy and Linda openly discussing their scheme: remove upstream protections, let flooding prove infrastructure inadequacy, then apply for millions in federal disaster grants. They'd even admitted to buying property in the flood zone, planning to cash in once taxpayer money fixed the system. When that recording spread, neighbors who'd once sided with Amy turned on her instantly. Michael, a junior board member, confronted her screaming, "You lied to us. You never said our own houses were at risk." He wasn't alone. Insurance claims piled up and people realized they'd been duped by the very woman who promised to protect community safety. Within weeks, the state pulled Linda's engineering license, citing fraud and concealment. Federal prosecutors went after Amy for disaster relief fraud and property manipulation. She went from ruling the neighborhood to being investigated by the FBI. The board dissolved under pressure, and emergency city engineers confirmed everything I'd been saying from day one. My dam had worked, the drainage system was outdated, and the HOA had lied. And me, I didn't need to shout. The water spoke for me. Amy's empire sank under 3 feet of dirty floodwater, and I just stood on the ridge watching, recording, knowing justice doesn't come from HOA bylaws or smug legal threats. It comes when the truth finally surfaces, just like water always finds its level. Lesson: gravity doesn't lie, and neither does evidence.